Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. Sadly, and I do mean sadly, the last Monday night game of the 2019 NFL season is upon us. I will do my best to get through this video without becoming emotional. This game features two teams from the NFC North who have clinched at least a playoff berth, but the division crown is still up in the air as the 11-3 Green Bay Packers visit the 10-4 Minnesota Vikings. If the Packers win, they clinch the NFC North Division crown. If Minnesota wins, then the division is up in the air, and the Packers would need to defeat the hapless Detroit Lions, who are 3 wins, 11 losses, and 1 tie, and the Vikings would need to beat the Bears. All that would need to happen for the Vikings to win the division. But for now, let's worry about this game. The Vikings have been installed as a 4.5-point favorite with a game total of 47.5 points. The line was 5.5 when it opened. But before we unpack this game, I want to share the numbers that are fantasy relevant to the Showdown contest itself. Up to and including Sunday night's Chiefs vs. Bears game and 5 other Showdown contests that Draftkings had yesterday, there have been 114 Showdown contests during the 2019 NFL season. These Showdown contests have an average winning score of 131.98, and the average winning captain score is 42.42. Since the average captain score represents 32% of the average winning score, I focus a lot of attention to the captain's position. With that being said, the captain's position breaks down as follows through the 114 Showdown contests. The underdog running back has been the captain more than any other position for the winning lineup, 22 times for 19%. The favored quarterback, 21 times for 18%. The favored wide receiver has been the captain in the winning lineup, 19 times for 17%. Underdog wide receiver, 15 times for 13%. The favorite running back has been the captain in the winning lineup 14 times for 12%. Underdog quarterback, 8 times for 7%. The favorite defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 6 times for 5%. The underdog tight end has been the captain in the winning lineup 3 times for 3%. The underdog kicker has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. Favorite tight end, 2 times for 2%. And the underdog defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. Now, I combine these by position, whether they were the underdog or the favorite, and it breaks down as follows. Running backs have appeared in the captain's position more than any other position for the winning lineup, 36 times for 32%. Wide receivers are close behind, 34 times for 30%. Quarterbacks, 29 times for 25%. All others, 15 times for 13%. Now, I also look at the overall straight-up win-loss record of the captains, and that breaks down as follows. Through the 114, the winning captain, their teams are 79 wins and 35 losses for a win percentage of 69%. And I broke that down by position as well. Running backs are 27 wins and 9 losses for 75%. Wide receivers, 20 wins and 14 losses for 59%. And quarterbacks are 21 wins and 8 losses for 72%. That means the captain from the winning lineup comes from the winning team 69% of the time. Now, do these numbers unlock the Vikings and Packers game tonight and give us the key to the winning lineup? Absolutely not. But they do offer us some information that we can use in our overall process. Some of the main takeaways is the underdog running backs in the captain's position have appeared there more than any other position, 19% of the time. Running backs combined for 1/3 of the winning lineups. The captain for the comes from the winning team 69% of the time. Those are all things we can factor into the overall process. Now, the rest of my process involves taking a stand on the game. Who do I think will win? One of the main reasons I do that is because I know that 69% of the time the captain comes from the winning lineup. Next, what is the path to victory? Is it the running game, the passing game? How is this team going to win this game? What is the game script? who are the players that support this game script, and then out of those players, who are the players out of that group that are likely to be the top scoring with that script. And then you also have to factor in the other team if they're playing from behind, obviously, or if you think the game's going to be close. How are they going to stay close? What are the players that are going to be needed for this game to be close? And then I put all that together and I build my lineup around my captain and use game theory, game script, and that's how I do it. So I had some interesting statistics. I went back and looked at the games that Aaron Rodgers has played against Minnesota, and I found some really interesting things. 9 games going back to 2014 versus Minnesota, and I took out the one game in 2017. He was injured and only threw 4 passes in that game. But in the 9 games, he's averaged 21 completions out of 34 pass attempts for 235 yards and 1.88 touchdowns, so almost 2 touchdowns. Now in the losses, he was 22 of 36 for 234 yards and 1 touchdown. So those aren't really fantastic numbers. And the most yards he's ever had passing in Minnesota, dating back to 2014, is 213 yards. That's the most. And at Minnesota, his average is 18 of 32 for 208 yards and 1.5 touchdowns. That's his average. In this game, I'm actually really perplexed by the line that has been set by the odds makers. I kind of feel like they're begging you to take the Packers and the points because the Vikings will be without their Pro Bowl running back Dalvin Cook. They're more than likely going to be without his backup Madison, and they're going to be relying on this running back Mike Boone. Now, last week Boone relieved Cook, and he did have 56 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. But we really don't know what we're getting. We don't know that if the Vikings will spread out the carries between Boone and C.J. Ham and Amir Abdullah. You really don't know. And they have him priced up as if they expected. I mean, for him to be in the captain spot, he's $13,500. And you consider him in the optimizer in the captain spot, but I just don't know how Minnesota is going to break this down. Minnesota obviously wants to run the ball. They're 3rd in the NFL, and they average 31 carries a game. And the Packers are the 4th worst in the NFL versus the run, as they allow 4.6 yards per carry. But there are some numbers that favor the Vikings passing game. The Packers allow 7.8 yards per pass attempt, and Cousins is tied for the 4th best in the NFL for passing yards per pass attempt, 8.4. He's been really efficient this year as well. The game total of 47.5 points and a 4.5 point home favorite without their starting running backs makes me think that this game is going to involve a lot of passing. The Vikings D is number 9 versus the running back position, so you can expect them to focus on limiting, obviously, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. But they do have a DVP of 24 versus the wide receiver, and their rank overall, if you look over on Draftkings, 29 versus the pass. So I'm going to lean towards a higher scoring game, and I think Kirk Cousins is 0-8 on Monday night in Monday night games. I kind of feel like he's going to get off that slide. They are playing for a lot. I don't think they'll just mail it in and say, well, you'll probably beat the Lions next week anyway. Anything can happen. Winning the division is a lot different than being a wild card. Wild card, you're going on the road, and everybody wants that home playoff game. So this is a lineup that I've built utilizing all the information that I just shared with you, and a game script that I'll go over with you as I show you. Now, the whole reason for me to do this video isn't to just give you these picks for you to run out and put them in a contest and go on. If you do, that's fine. You see this Cowboy Fan 215 up here. If we stumble into the same contest in somehow luckily win, we'll be splitting, and something's better than nothing. Now, I've never won one of these contests. I do have a really high cash percentage, probably 85 to 90%, and I've placed really high up in a few of these. I play different contests. I'll play some in the large GPP, some in the 50-50, the double up, and I just spread it out. I might max out the $1.20 entry or something like that, and I do it that way. I don't MME, meaning the 150 lineups. I don't have any problem with anybody that does that. It makes sense. If I'm ever in the position to do that, I will be doing it. It just makes sense. If you got really good player pools, you can make a lot of money doing this. And if that's your job, obviously you want to be involved in those type of maneuvers, the MME. But this is the lineup that I'm working on, and I think it'll be somewhat contrarian. I'm going to give you guys two examples of what I'm thinking. I like Kirk Cousins in that captain spot. I think it'll be contrarian because I think Davante Adams is going to be very popular in the captain spot. So I'm going to pivot away from that and go to the Minnesota passing game. In flex, I'm going to go down here to 2,600, and I'm going to put Geronimo Allison. He's the number 3 wide receiver for Green Bay. He does get targeted, and at that price, it doesn't take much for him to get value. I'm also going to put Lazard. He's the number 2 receiver, so I'm going to go with Allison and Lazard instead of Adams. It's risky. As I said, I know Adams will be real popular in the captain, but if he just has a mediocre game, which if you look at Rodgers' statistics through the past 9 games in Minnesota, if Rodgers has that type of game, then Adams won't have a fantastic game. So I'm going to take a risk and fade him and go with the other 2 receivers. I am going to put Aaron Rodgers in there since I have 2 targets in this lineup. I'll have Rodgers with Allison and Lazard, and then I'm going to use the tight end Rudolph, and I'm going to use Adam Thielen. I think Thielen is a pivot off of Diggs. Diggs is $1,000 more than Thielen, and probably going to be more popular. He's averaging more fantasy points per game, but Thielen has had a couple really big games against Green Bay through the years. So this left 1,300 on the table, so I think this will be a little bit contrarian. In showdowns, it's not a bad thing to leave money on the table. The average winning lineup, I seen the statistic a few days ago, is leaving just over $1,000 on the table. And I really like this. I think it makes sense. You got Cousins throwing the ball around, and you got Rodgers throwing it to someone else other than Adams. And I think, like I said, if Rodgers doesn't have a great game, mediocre game, then Davante Adams won't have a great game either unless every single pass goes to him. He'll get his targets and he's going to get his share. He's got a really good matchup against Xavier Rhodes. But this is a lineup that I'm going to use in a larger GPP. And so I really like that. And I'm going to show you another one that I had. It also has Kirk Cousins in the, excuse me a second here. It has Cousins in the captain. It has Geronimo Allison. And this one actually is going to be different because I'm going to use the running back from Green Bay, Aaron Jones. It's going to have Rudolph. I'm going back to Thielen. And that leaves me 6,300. I'm sorry. And I'm going to use the other running back from Green Bay. So I'm going to use 2 running backs and a third number 3 receiver for Green Bay. And I thought about this earlier in the week when I thought about this game, like a lot of people would go to the Green Bay passing game and the Minnesota running game. Well, what if you switch that up and go to the Minnesota passing game and the Green Bay running game? So I think this will be different, contrarian as well. Left 1,100 on the table, which, as I mentioned, is a good thing in showdown contests. A lot of people know about Cousins and his 0-8 record on Monday night, and to probably be hesitant to have him in that captain spot. My first thought was to jump on the points for the Packers and build that way, but I got to thinking about it. It seems like they want you to go that way, and even with the running back situation, Cousins been really efficient this year, and I think this will be another contrarian build. So there you go. Now, as I always do, whether I'm using it for the main slate, showdown contest, whatever, early only games, 4 o'clock, I utilize an optimizer from a paid site that I have. And I've reached out to them and asked them if I could mention their name. I asked them through video. It'd be free advertising, but I want to make sure everything's on the up and up before I do that and put someone's name out there without asking. So this optimizer that I use, as I said, I use it for, it doesn't matter what kind of contest. And what I do is I take the players that I'm interested in. On Showdown, I take the players that I'm interested in. It gives me the option to choose the players that I want in the captain's position. I usually get between 4 and 6 different captains, at least a couple from the other team and 3 to 4 from the team that I think is going to win the game. And I put very few rules in there. This week, I usually put, if the wide receiver's in the captain spot, I want his quarterback in the flex. I usually always do that. For this particular one, I didn't do that. And I try to keep it to 1 between the 2 defenses and 2 kickers, at the most 2. And I set the minimum maximum exposures for all the players in the captain's position and in the flex position. And I go fairly low because a lot of people will build in their lineups and go down here and say, well, just let's say Ryan Granny's 300, I'll put him in the flex, and that gives me a lot of options with my lineup to build and put whoever I want in the captain spot. And sometimes that works. You'll get one of them $200-$300 guys that stumbles into the end zone at $300, and now you've hit a gold mine because they 5 times their value or 10 times their value, and that works out sometimes. I don't try to go down there and figure out which one of those guys is going to be the lucky one. I try to build balanced lineups around game theory, utilizing the numbers that I shared with you guys earlier. And with the optimizer, I set very few restrictions other than the minimum maximum exposures, because I want to see the different randomizations of the players that I like. And I'm not going to see that if I try to build 20 lineups myself. And I go through and I look at the ones that I like, and if I'm in a 20 entry $1 GPP contest or something, I'll go through there and pick out the ones I like, and it's been profitable for me this year in showdown contests. So I always share with you guys a couple lineups. The first lineup, I usually only share one. It's Christmas. I'm going to give you guys 2 to look at and see what the optimizer did. And I set it for 150. And it doesn't always give me 150 with the rules or the exposures I have. It can only do so much with what you put in there. This week it gave me tonight it gave me 123 out of the 150 requested with the exposures that I had and just a couple rules. I really try to limit the rules on Showdown because anything can happen, and you're trying to differentiate yourself a little bit to gain leverage. So this was the very first one. Not surprisingly, as I mentioned earlier, Davante Adams in the captain spot. It had Allison in the flex. It had Abdullah in the flex. It had Thielen in the flex. Running back Boone and Kirk Cousins. So normally I would have the rule that if I had that wide receiver up here, I'd want the quarterback down here, which you can actually do that with this particular lineup, and it leaves 100. But the very first lineup had Kirk Cousins, so it looks like a fade on Rodgers. So what this is saying is Adams is going to be the top scorer, but it's going to be Rodgers being real efficient, going to him, maybe throwing some in there to Geronimo Allison. And then you have two running backs from Minnesota, and you got Cousins and Thielen stacked up there. So this is a 4-2 stack, and this was the first one, left 300 on the table. As I said, I'm pretty sure Davante Adams is going to be one of the most popular in that captain spot, especially on Draftkings. Draftkings 1-point PPR, and those receptions can really add up. You know, seen something here on him. His last, if you look at his game logs and the targets that he's getting, last week versus Chicago 13, Washington 6, Giants 10, San Francisco 12. So 3 out of the last 4 have been double-digit targets, and 4 out of 5 Carolina, 5 out of 6 Chargers. You know, all the games he's been in 10 games, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 10 he's had double-digit targets. So I mean, it makes sense to have him up there, and he's probably got a high likelihood of being the winning captain. But when I did my manual build, the way that I did it, so that not that he necessarily, if he does bust and he's one of the highest owned captains, then I gain leverage on the field over all the people that had him in that captain spot. If he goes off, then I live to play another day. But this is the very first lineup that was built by the optimizer, and I'm going to show you guys one more. I thought this one was interesting as well. I had Cousins, or hold on a second here. It had Cousins in the captain spot, Rudolph in the flex, the kicker Dan Bailey. And kickers are always good in Showdown. I mean, they offer pretty much a safe floor. The game's not going to end up being 0-0, and they give you a safe floor for some points. I tend to like the kicker from the home team or the kicker from the team that has the highest implied total. Obviously, the team is favored to win. In this situation, it would be Minnesota. So, and this is an optimized lineup that was built, so it's pretty interesting. And then it has Jamal Williams, running back for Green Bay, which is a nice pivot off of Aaron Jones. And then it has Diggs, and then it has Boone. So that's pretty interesting. Left 500 on the table, and you know it's only using one player from Green Bay. It'd probably be contrarian, definitely. 5-1 onslaught stack here, and but you never know. And that was another one from the optimizer. As I said today, it gave me it was 123 out of the 150 that I requested. So there you go. I want to get this posted to you guys so you have it in plenty of time before the game tonight. Make sure you check that injury report. Should be out between 6:50 and 7 o'clock. Make sure you check that. Madison, right now, said they were leaning towards him being out. With the situation that Minnesota is in with the game, they definitely don't want to risk Cook because they're already in the playoffs. Obviously, they want to win the division, but I mean, the way it looks, Green Bay is going to win it, whether they win it tonight or next week. But you never know. But Madison is listed as questionable for Monday's matchup with the Packer, is viewed as a game time decision. So that's, you got to really be on top of that and check and then it's still a really big risk. I mean, ankle injury. I'm not sure if it's high ankle, if he's limited at all. Paying $9,200 for him in the flex, or whatever it is for him in the captain spot is $13,800. And given that Madison has managed just one limited practice over the past 2 weeks while tending to the ankle injury, the Vikings appear inclined to wait and see how the rookie checks out during a workout Monday before rendering a verdict on his status. Since Madison's availability or lack of thereof isn't expected to be known until a few hours before Monday's 8:15 kickoff, so 6:45 the injury report will be out. He'll be a risky option. I'll put the word "very" in there for you for fantasy lineup, given that his managers would likely have few alternatives to turn to in the event he's inactive for Week 16. Given that the Vikings have already secured a wild card spot, in addition to the fact that Green Bay can still take home the NFC North crown with a Week 17 win over the Reeling Lions, Adam Schefter of ESPN speculates that Minnesota will likely take a conservative approach with Madison and hold him out for a second straight game. If that's the case, Mike Boone would likely headline a Week 16 Vikings backfield that will be missing Dalvin Cook, who has already been ruled out. So it's risky. Make sure you check the injury report. And for any other, it doesn't look like there's any others that actually have any injury designations, but you still want to check. A few weeks ago, Rams game, when the injury report come up, all of a sudden Robert Woods wasn't playing due to a personal matter. So you never know. So always check that. I want to thank you guys for joining me and spending time with me. I definitely want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from my family to yours. I encourage you to please drop any opinions or comments that you may have below. I've really had some good comments and some people try to help me out with some ideals and things that I'm really looking at, and has helped me a ton. This channel has exceeded my expectations. I'm getting up close to 100 subscribers, which isn't much, but it exceeded what I thought, or where I thought I would be right now. My viewers have really went up. So please share this video, like it, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts. I'll still be doing my videos, the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and lineup building for the final week, and then I'll still do the showdowns that they have for the playoffs and see whatever else that Draftkings offers. And please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, because my viewers are really going up, and I'd really like to see you guys that are viewers become subscribers. It's free. I got some really good information, and it won't hurt if you give me a chance. And I really appreciate you guys joining me. I just want to stress that. I'll be back probably Wednesday, or not Wednesday, probably Thursday, to start doing the videos for the final week of the NFL. And you can also follow me on Twitter at winningabout. I try to put a lot of information that I see on injuries and other things on that Twitter site. Again, don't forget your injury report. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you real soon.